Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. Today was supposed to be simple. His Third Fleet was conducting routine patrols along the outer rim of hegemony space. Nothing important ever happened out here. The worlds were empty or filled with primitive species that barely knew fire existed. His 4 arms crossed behind his back as he reviewed the morning reports. Pirates had been cleared from the Vega sector. 3 new mining operations were running smoothly on dead worlds. A small trade dispute between 2 colony worlds had been resolved. Everything was normal and boring, just the way he liked it. "Sir?" called Lieutenant Mordak from the sensor station. "We have an unscheduled hyperspace emergence." Zethkar turned his large head toward the junior officer. "Identification?" "Unknown, sir. The ship is large." "Large how?" Mordak's scales turned pale. "Bigger than us, sir. Much bigger." Zethkar felt his blood chill. The Eternal Glory was a hegemony dreadnought. It was 3 kilometers long and could destroy entire fleets. Only a few ships in the galaxy were larger, and they all belonged to the hegemony's core worlds. "Put it on screen." The main display activated, showing the black of space. Then the ship came into view, and Zethkar's breath stopped. The vessel was massive, easily 4 kilometers from nose to tail, but it was unlike anything in the hegemony database. Where hegemony ships were smooth and curved like works of art, this ship was angular and brutal. Its hull was dark gray metal covered in strange markings and what looked like battle scars. Weapon ports dotted its surface like angry eyes. But what made Zethkar's hearts race was the symbol painted on the side. Crude letters in a primitive script spelled out words he had to translate: Terran Defense Force. "Computer," he said, his voice shaking. "Identify species designation Terran." The ship's AI responded immediately. "Species designation Terran refers to inhabitants of planet Earth, Sol system. Classification: pre-spaceflight primitive species. Last survey conducted 200 standard cycles ago. Technology level: basic chemical propulsion. Threat assessment: 0. Zethkar stared at the monster ship floating before them. "Computer, are you certain?" "Records confirmed. Humans achieved basic rocket technology approximately 200 cycles ago. No evidence of faster-than-light capability. Species recommendation. Not suitable for integration for at least 1,000 cycles." "Then explain that." Zethkar pointed at the screen. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the impossible sight. The ship had weapons that no primitive species should possess. Its hull material reflected their scans in ways that suggested advanced metallurgy. Most disturbing of all, its energy signature was massive and chaotic, unlike anything in their databases. "Sir," whispered the communications officer, "I'm picking up transmissions from inside the vessel. The language matches the Terran database, but the content—" "What about it?" "They're discussing combat readiness and weapon systems that shouldn't exist. They mentioned something called nuclear torpedoes and plasma cannons. Sir, their technology readings are off the charts." Zethkar felt sick. In all his years of service, he had never encountered an unknown military force. The hegemony had mapped and cataloged every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. They had absorbed most of them into their empire peacefully. The few that resisted were primitive and easily defeated. But this was different. These humans had somehow jumped from chemical rockets to faster-than-light battleships in just 200 cycles. That was impossible. Most species took thousands of years to make that leap. "Tactical assessment," he ordered. The weapons officer studied his displays for several minutes before responding. "Sir, I cannot determine their defensive capabilities. Our sensors cannot penetrate their hull. Their energy weapons appear to be using principles we don't understand. And, sir, they have at least 40 weapon systems that I can detect, maybe more." "40?" Zethkar's voice cracked. His own ship had 12 main weapons. Yes, sir, including some very large ones mounted along their central axis. I've never seen anything like them. Zethkar walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. His mind raced through possibilities. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe the ship was stolen technology from another species. Maybe the humans had been secretly uplifted by a rival power. But deep down, he knew something else was happening. Something that made his military training scream warnings. "Sir," called the communications officer again. "The human ship is hailing us. Put them through." The main screen changed to show the interior of the alien bridge. Zethkar had expected to see primitive creatures in crude clothing. Instead, he saw beings that looked disturbingly capable. They wore uniforms that seemed functional and well-designed. Their bridge was clean and efficient. Most shocking of all, they moved with the confidence of experienced warriors. A human female with short brown hair and sharp eyes stared at him from the screen. When she spoke, her words were calm and controlled. "Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force ship, Indomitable. You are approaching human space. State your intentions." Zethkar struggled to find words. Human space? They claimed territory now? "I am Admiral Zethkar of the Hegemony Third Fleet. We were unaware that humans had achieved spaceflight." Admiral Chen smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "We achieved many things recently, Admiral. The question is, what are you doing here?" Zethkar looked around his bridge. His officers stared back with confusion and fear. Everything they knew about the galaxy had just changed. These humans were not the primitives described in their files. They had technology, ships, and worst of all, the attitude of a species that was ready to fight. We are on routine patrol," he managed to say. "I see," Admiral Chen replied. "Well, Admiral, I suggest you patrol somewhere else. This system is under human protection now." The transmission ended, leaving Zethkar staring at empty space and the massive human warship that shouldn't exist. His communications officer looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, what are your orders?" Zethkar didn't answer immediately. He was too busy wondering how his simple patrol had just become the most important moment in galactic history. Admiral Zethkar paced the length of his bridge, his four arms clasped behind his back. 3 hours had passed since the human ship had appeared, and his science teams were working frantically to understand what they faced. Every few minutes, another impossible detail emerged from their analysis. "Sir," called Chief Science Officer Veltar from her station, "I have preliminary results from our deep scans of the Sol system." Zethkar hurried over to her console. "What did you find?" Veltar's expression was troubled. "Sir, we need to discuss the planet these humans come from. According to our records, Earth was classified as a Class 13 death world. Do you understand what that means?" "Refresh my memory." Class 13 is the highest danger rating we give to planets. It means the world is so hostile that no intelligent life should be able to evolve there, let alone survive. Sir, according to our measurements, this planet should be empty. Zethkar felt his skin crawl. "Explain." Veltar activated a holographic display showing Earth. The planet looked beautiful from space, blue and white with swirling clouds. But as she zoomed in, the readings told a different story. First, their star. It's unstable, producing dangerous radiation bursts that would sterilize most worlds. The magnetic field fluctuations alone should prevent complex life from developing. She highlighted different regions of the planet. Second, the gravity is 1.3 times what most species can tolerate long-term. Third, the atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, which is highly corrosive and creates a constant fire hazard. Most species would die from oxygen poisoning. But there's more, sir. The planet is geologically active. Massive earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and weather systems that generate winds over 300 kilometers per hour. The temperature swings from freezing to deadly hot. Some regions experience radiation levels that would kill our people in minutes. Zethkar stared at the display. And humans evolved on this world? Not just evolved, sir. They thrived. Our deep scans show they built cities in earthquake zones. They live in areas with active volcanoes. They have settlements in regions with temperature extremes that would require our most advanced environmental suits. Lieutenant Mordak looked up from his station. Sir, I'm detecting massive industrial activity across the planet. Energy signatures suggest they're using nuclear fission on a planetary scale. Nuclear fission? Zethkar's voice was barely a whisper. For power generation? No, sir. The signatures are all wrong for power generation. It looks like weapons testing. Veltar nodded grimly. That matches our historical scans. These humans learned to split atoms not for energy, but for warfare. They developed nuclear weapons before they achieved spaceflight. Sir, they had the power to destroy their own planet, and they didn't use it. Zethkar felt sick. Most species that developed nuclear weapons either destroyed themselves or gave up warfare entirely. The idea of a species that mastered such power and then controlled themselves was terrifying. Show me their technology progression, he ordered. Veltar activated a timeline. This is where it gets truly disturbing, sir. Most species take 50,000 to 100,000 cycles to advance from basic tools to spaceflight. Humans did it in 200. The timeline showed humanity's impossible development, from stone tools to metal working in a few thousand years, from basic chemistry to nuclear physics in less than 100 cycles, from first flight to faster-than-light travel in barely 60 cycles. How is this possible? Their environment, sir. Every advancement was driven by survival needs. They developed metallurgy not for art, but to build structures that could survive earthquakes. They mastered chemistry to create materials that could withstand their planet's corrosive atmosphere. They learned physics because they needed energy sources that could work in their harsh environment. Veltar paused, then continued quietly. Sir, they didn't just adapt to their death world. They turned its dangers into advantages. The radiation that should have killed them helped them understand nuclear physics. The violent weather taught them about energy systems. The unstable geology showed them how to work with dangerous materials. What about their biology? Zethkar asked. The science officer pulled up medical scans they had taken of the human ship. Their bodies are optimized for survival, sir. Dense bones to handle high gravity, redundant organ systems. A healing rate that's 3 times faster than the galactic average. And, sir, they can function in environments that would kill most species. Their blood can carry more oxygen than any other known species, which explains how they survive in their hostile atmosphere. Their muscle density is 40% higher than the galactic standard, and their neural system, sir, they process stress and danger differently than other species. How so? Most intelligent species develop fear responses that prevent them from taking extreme risks. It keeps them safe, but humans seem to have the opposite response. Danger makes them more focused, more creative, more determined. Where other species would retreat, humans advance. Zethkar walked to the viewing window and stared at the human battleship. What about their technology? How advanced are they, really? That's the terrifying part, sir, Veltar replied. Their technology is both primitive and advanced. They're using nuclear fusion reactors that are crude compared to our antimatter systems, but somehow they generate more power per unit. Their weapons use projectile systems and plasma technology that we abandoned centuries ago, but they've refined these systems to levels we never achieved. It's like they took the most dangerous paths of technological development and mastered them instead of finding safer alternatives. Lieutenant Mordak spoke up again. Sir, I've been analyzing their ship construction. The hull isn't made from any advanced materials. It's steel, iron, and carbon compounds. Basic materials that any industrial species uses for simple construction. Then how is it so strong? They didn't make it strong by using better materials, sir. They made it strong by using more material and better engineering. That ship isn't just large, it's incredibly thick. The armor plating must be several meters deep. They built that ship like it was designed to ram through asteroids. Veltar added, "And sir, the energy readings suggest they're using nuclear reactors as backup power. The main power source appears to be something else entirely, something we can't identify. Could they be using captured technology from other species?" "No, sir. The design philosophy is completely alien to any known civilization. Other species build for efficiency and elegance. Humans build for survival and redundancy. Every system on that ship has backups. Every weapon has multiple ammunition types. It's like they expect everything to break in combat and planned for it." Zethkar turned back to his crew. "Recommendations?" "Sir," Veltar said slowly, "I think we're dealing with something unprecedented. A species that was forged by a world trying to kill them every day for millions of years. They didn't develop advanced technology to make life easier. They developed it to survive impossible conditions." "And now they're in space," Mordak added quietly. "Yes," Veltar confirmed. "A species that considers radiation, gravity, corrosive atmosphere, and natural disasters to be normal parts of life is now building warships. Sir, I don't think the hegemony has ever encountered anything like this." Zethkar looked at the human ship again. Its scarred hull and brutal design suddenly made sense. These weren't beings who had been given the gift of space travel. They were beings who had clawed their way off a world that spent every moment trying to kill them. "Send a message to High Command," he said quietly. "Tell them we may have a problem." The alarm on Admiral Zethkar's bridge suddenly screamed to life. He spun around as red lights flashed across every station. "Report!" he barked. "Multiple hyperspace signatures," Lieutenant Mordak called out, his voice tight with panic. "Sir, we have incoming ships, many ships." "How many?" "I count 12. No, 15. Sir, more are still arriving." Zethkar felt his blood turn cold. "Show me." The main screen lit up with tactical displays. One by one, ships emerged from hyperspace around the human battleship. But what Zethkar saw made no sense. Each ship was different. Some were as large as the first battleship, others were smaller and sleeker. A few looked like they had been converted from civilian vessels. One appeared to be built from scavenged parts of different ships welded together. Another looked like a hollowed-out asteroid with engines attached to it. "Sir," the tactical officer said in disbelief, "these ships don't match any unified design pattern. It's like they were built by completely different civilizations." "Are we looking at an alliance of multiple species?" "No, sir. All transmission signatures are human. These are all human vessels." Zethkar stared at the growing fleet. In his experience, spacefaring species developed standard ship designs. Efficiency demanded it. Resources were precious in space, so every civilization learned to build ships the same way to reduce costs and simplify maintenance. But these humans had done the opposite. Each ship was unique, built with different materials and different weapons. Some bristled with missile launchers, others had energy weapons, and a few had weapon types his computer couldn't identify. "Sir," called Chief Science Officer Veltar, "I'm detecting something unusual about their formations." "Explain." "They're not positioning themselves like individual ships. They're moving like a pack of hunting animals. Each ship covers the weaknesses of the others. The smaller ships are screening the larger ones. The converted civilian vessels are taking support positions. It's coordinated, but not rigid." Zethkar had studied military tactics for his entire career. Hegemony fleets moved in precise formations with each ship following exact protocols. Order and discipline were the keys to space combat. But these humans were doing something different. Their ships moved in loose groups that constantly shifted and adapted. When one ship moved forward, others automatically adjusted to cover its flanks. When a smaller ship took an aggressive position, a larger ship moved to support it. It's like they're thinking as one mind, Veltar continued, but each ship is making independent decisions. Sir, the communications officer interrupted, I'm picking up chatter between the human ships. Put it through. The bridge speakers filled with human voices speaking in their primitive language. The computer translated, but the words were strange. Wolfpack 7, this is Wolfpack Leader. Form up on our 6. Roger that, Leader. Mongoose Squadron is ready to screen. Bearclaw, can you get a firing solution on the big ship if things go bad? Negative, Wolfpack Leader. But Hammerfall says they can put enough missiles downrange to make them think twice. Zethkar listened with growing confusion. What are they talking about? What is a wolf pack or a mongoose? Veltar checked her databases. Sir, these appear to be names of Earth predator animals. The humans are naming their military units after creatures that hunt in groups. But why? I think it explains their tactics, sir. On Earth, pack hunters work together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Each member of the pack has a role. They coordinate without rigid command structures. The communications officer looked up. Sir, there's something else. I'm detecting multiple languages in their transmissions, not dialects, completely different languages. How many? At least 6, sir. Maybe more. Zethkar was stunned. In his experience, spacefaring species unified their languages long before achieving interstellar flight. Communication problems made space operations too dangerous otherwise. Sir, Veltar said quietly, I don't think these humans have a unified government. What do you mean? The ship designs, the different languages, the naming conventions. I think we're looking at multiple human nations or factions operating together. But sir, they're coordinating like they've been training together for years. Zethkar studied the tactical display more carefully. Now that he looked for it, he could see the patterns. Ships with similar designs stayed in loose groups. The different languages corresponded to different ship types. But somehow, all these separate factions were working as one fleet. Sir, the tactical officer called out, I'm reading life signs from the human ships. The crew numbers are unusual. How so? Most civilized species use small crews or single pilots for efficiency. These human ships have massive crews. The largest battleship shows over 500 individual life signs. Even their smallest ships have crews of 20 or 30. That's incredibly inefficient. Yes, sir, but it's also redundant. If they lose crew members, they have replacements ready. And, sir, the crew rotations suggest they never sleep all at once. These ships are fully manned and alert around the clock. Veltar was studying her readings intently. Sir, I'm detecting something else about their crew patterns. The life signs show extreme biological diversity within each crew. Meaning? Different subspecies of humans, sir. Age ranges from very young to very old. Different genetic backgrounds. It's like each ship deliberately recruited crew members from multiple human populations. Zethkar walked to the center of his bridge, trying to understand what he was seeing. So, they're not just different factions working together. Each individual ship is crewed by different types of humans. Yes, sir. And based on their communication patterns, they're not operating with strict hierarchies either. Orders flow both up and down the command structure. Junior crew members are making tactical suggestions that senior officers are implementing. The communications officer suddenly straightened. Sir, we're being hailed, but not by Admiral Chen. Who then? Multiple ships, sir. They all want to talk to us at once. Zethkar hesitated. In his experience, enemy fleets had one commander who spoke for everyone. But these humans seemed to operate differently. Put them all through. The main screen split into multiple windows, showing bridges from different human ships. Each one was slightly different in design and crew composition. Some humans wore different uniforms. Others had different skin colors and facial features. but all of them shared the same confident, dangerous expression. A black-skinned human male spoke first. Admiral Zethkar, I am Captain Williams of the TDF, Revenge. Are you planning to leave peacefully? Before Zethkar could answer, an Asian human female interrupted. This is Captain Tanaka of the Rising Sun. Our sensors show your weapons are powered up. Please explain. A third human, pale, with strange facial hair, added, Captain Rodriguez of the Defiance. Here, sir, your ship is large and impressive, but you're outnumbered. We'd prefer to settle this without violence. Zethkar found himself facing not one commander, but multiple leaders who seemed to speak as equals. Each had their own authority, their own ship, their own crew, but somehow they were acting as a unified force. We are on peaceful patrol, he managed to say. All the human captains smiled at the same time, but again, none of the smiles were friendly. Captain Williams spoke for the group. Admiral, here's what's going to happen. You're going to turn your fleet around and leave human space. You're not going to come back without permission. And you're going to tell your superiors that this region is under our protection now. And if we refuse? Zethkar asked. This time, Admiral Chen appeared on the screen. Admiral, you've never fought a species that hunts in packs. We don't have single points of failure. We don't depend on one leader or one plan. If you destroy my ship, Captain Williams takes command. If you destroy his ship, Captain Tanaka takes over. We planned for every possible loss. She paused, then continued. We also don't fight fair, Admiral. We fight to win. Zethkar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at the screens in shock. They were seeing something that shouldn't exist, a military force with multiple independent commanders acting as a unified threat. How many ships do you have? He asked quietly. Admiral Chen smiled. Enough, Admiral. More than enough. Admiral Zethkar sat in his private quarters, staring at the official message from Hegemony High Command. The text glowed on his personal display, but the words made his stomach turn. Admiral, you are instructed to begin integration protocols immediately. Offer the humans standard membership terms. If they refuse, you are authorized to use necessary force to ensure compliance. The hegemony cannot allow an unknown military power to operate independently in our space. He closed the message and walked to his window. Outside, the human fleet maintained its positions. More ships had arrived during the past 6 hours, bringing their total to over 30 vessels. Each one was different, each one dangerous. Zethkar had spent the time studying integration records from other species. The process was always the same. First contact, followed by an offer of membership in the galactic community. Most species accepted immediately. Those who hesitated were shown the benefits of hegemony technology and civilization. The few who still refused were given a demonstration of hegemony military power. It had worked for over 400 species. None had ever rejected membership after seeing what the hegemony could offer, but these humans were different. He could see it in the way they moved, the way they talked, the way they positioned their ships. They weren't impressed by his massive dreadnought. They weren't afraid of his weapons. Most disturbing of all, they weren't curious about his technology. A chime indicated someone was requesting communication. Put Admiral Chen through, he ordered. The human woman appeared on his screen. She was in a different location now, what looked like a strategic planning room. Charts and displays covered the walls behind her, showing details of both fleets. Admiral Zethkar, she said politely, I believe you wanted to discuss terms? Indeed. He activated his own displays, showing the standard integration package. Admiral Chen, the hegemony would like to formally welcome humanity into the galactic community. He gestured to the holographic presentations floating between them. We offer immediate access to antimatter technology, which would advance your energy capabilities by thousands of years. medical technology that would extend human lifespans to over 500 years. Transportation systems that would allow you to reach any point in the galaxy within days. Admiral Chen listened without expression as he continued. We would provide you with a sector of 200 star systems for human expansion. Educational programs to bring your people up to galactic standards. Cultural exchange programs with hundreds of advanced civilizations. And of course, full protection under hegemony military forces. He paused, expecting to see excitement or at least interest in her eyes. Instead, Admiral Chen was studying her own displays. That's very generous, she said finally. What would be expected of us in return? Standard integration requirements, Zethkar replied. Human military forces would be incorporated into hegemony defense structures. Your governments would adopt galactic legal and administrative standards. Educational systems would be updated to include galactic history and culture. And of course, any dangerous or primitive technologies would be replaced with safer alternatives. I see. Admiral Chen's voice remained calm. Admiral, may I ask you something? Of course. In your records of the 400 species that joined the hegemony, how many maintained their original government systems? Zethkar hesitated. Well, most found that galactic administrative methods were more efficient. How many, Admiral? None, he admitted. But they gained so much more in return. What about military traditions? How many species maintained their own defense forces? Admiral Chen, with hegemony protection, independent militaries become unnecessary. So none of them either. Admiral Chen leaned forward. What about cultural practices? Languages, art forms, religious beliefs? Zethkar felt uncomfortable. Over time, most species find that galactic culture provides greater opportunities for growth and learning. So you're telling me that 400 different species, each with thousands of years of history, all voluntarily gave up everything that made them unique to become identical copies of your galactic standard? They evolved beyond their primitive origins, Zethkar said defensively. Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she activated her own displays. Admiral, let me show you something. The screen filled with images from Earth. Cities full of different architectural styles, people with different skin colors, clothes, and customs, art and music that varied wildly from region to region. This is humanity, Admiral. We have 200 countries with different governments. We speak over 7,000 different languages. We have dozens of different religions. We create art in thousands of different styles. We disagree about almost everything. More images appeared. Humans working together despite their differences. Different nations cooperating on space projects. Various cultures sharing technology while maintaining their uniqueness. But when something threatens any of us, we stand together. Not because we're the same, but because our differences make us stronger. Zethkar studied the images. But think of how much more efficient you could be with unified standards. Admiral, do you know what efficiency got your last 400 species? Peace, prosperity, advancement, extinction, Admiral Chen interrupted. Not physical extinction, cultural extinction. When I look at your member species, I see billions of beings who all think the same, act the same, want the same things. They're not different species anymore. They're just copies of the same galactic citizen. She activated another display showing hegemony worlds. The cities all looked similar. The people dressed the same way. Even their art had become standardized. You're offering us paradise, Admiral. A comfortable, safe, efficient paradise where we would never want for anything. Where we would never face danger or hardship or struggle. Admiral Chen smiled, but this time it wasn't threatening. It was sad. But that paradise would kill us. Not our bodies, but our souls. Everything that makes us human would disappear. Our art would become galactic standard. Our languages would be replaced with galactic common. Our children would learn that their ancestors were primitive beings who needed to be uplifted. Is that so terrible? Zethkar asked. Your descendants would be part of something greater than themselves. Admiral, do you know what the greatest honor is for a human? No. To die for something we believe in. To sacrifice ourselves so that others can remain free. Your offer would take that away from us. We would have nothing left worth dying for. Admiral Chen stood up, and behind her, Zethkar could see other humans at work. They moved with purpose and determination he had never seen in galactic citizens. Admiral, our answer is no. I don't think you understand the full implications of that decision, Zethkar said carefully. The hegemony has never accepted rejection of membership. What are you saying? I'm saying that if you will not join willingly, you may be compelled to join for your own protection. Admiral Chen's expression changed. The sadness disappeared, replaced by something that made Zethkar instinctively step back from the screen. Admiral, she said quietly, are you threatening us? I'm offering you one last chance to accept the benefits of civilization. I see. Admiral Chen activated her communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Condition red. Prepare for combat operations. Across the human fleet, ships began moving into attack formations. Weapon systems powered up. The improvised vessels and converted civilian ships revealed hidden armaments. Admiral Chen, please reconsider. My ship alone outguns your entire fleet. Admiral Chen looked directly into the camera. Admiral, you've spent your career fighting species that surrender at the first show of force. Species that choose survival over freedom. You've never fought anyone who considers death preferable to surrender. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried the authority of someone who had never backed down from anything. Would you like to learn the difference? Zethkar stared at the screen as Admiral Chen ended the transmission. Around him, alarms began sounding as his tactical systems detected the human fleet's aggressive posture. For the first time in his career, Admiral Zethkar faced an enemy that truly did not care if they died, as long as they died free. The standoff lasted for 72 hours. Admiral Zethkar sat on his bridge, watching the human fleet maintain their battle positions. Neither side had fired a shot, but weapons remained powered and ready. His crew moved quietly, speaking in whispers as if loud voices might trigger a war. During those 3 days, more ships arrived. Human ships continued to emerge from hyperspace, bringing their fleet to over 50 vessels. But hegemony reinforcements had arrived too. Admiral Zethkar now commanded a task force of 23 ships, including 2 more dreadnoughts and a carrier loaded with fighter craft. By any military calculation, the hegemony force was superior. Their ships were larger, their weapons more advanced, their shields stronger. But Admiral Zethkar had studied the humans for 72 hours now, and he was no longer confident in victory. The humans had used the time wisely. Their ships had repositioned themselves among the asteroids in the system, turning space rocks into mobile weapons platforms. They had deployed some kind of sensor network that tracked every movement of the hegemony fleet. Most disturbing of all, they had somehow turned civilian cargo haulers into what appeared to be mobile missile platforms. "Sir," called Lieutenant Mordak, "emergency transmission from the outer system." "Put it through." The screen showed Captain Velnock of the patrol ship, Swift Current. The young officer looked shaken. "Admiral, we were investigating a distress signal from a Zenthari freighter when human ships appeared. The freighter's reactor was overloading, and the crew was trapped." Zethkar felt his heart's race. The Zenthari were one of the hegemony's member species. If humans had attacked civilians... "Did they fire on you?" "No, sir. They helped." Admiral Zethkar blinked. "Explain." The human ships immediately began rescue operations. They put their own crews at risk to save the Zenthari. They gave the freighter crew medical treatment and supplies. Sir, they even repaired the ship's engines. I don't understand. Admiral, one of the human captains told me something. He said they fight soldiers, not innocent people. He asked me to give you a message. Zethkar waited. He said, "We're not monsters. We just want to be left alone." The transmission ended, leaving Zethkar staring at an empty screen. Around him, his bridge crew exchanged glances. This didn't fit with anything they understood about hostile species. "Sir," the communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving broadcasts from across the Empire. Reports of the situation here are spreading." "What kind of reports?" "Stories about humans refusing integration, about their ships and weapons, about their independence." Zethkar felt a chill run down his spine. "Show me." The main screen filled with transmission logs from across hegemony space. Most were routine administrative messages, but scattered among them were different kinds of communications. A message from a Vorth colony world. "Is it true that humans said no to the hegemony? How did they survive the response?" A transmission between Zenthari traders. "My cousin was rescued by human ships. They asked for nothing in return." "What kind of species does that?" A coded message from a Kaleth research station. "Request clarification on human military capabilities. Reports suggest significant combat potential." How did they achieve spaceflight so quickly? But the most disturbing messages were the shortest ones. Simple questions being asked on worlds across the Empire. Why did we say yes when they said no? And what would happen if we chose to leave? "Sir," Chief Science Officer Veltar said quietly, "we have a problem." "Larger than the human fleet?" "Yes, sir. The very existence of the humans changes everything. For 400 years, every species the hegemony encountered either joined willingly or was forced to join. The idea that membership could be refused never occurred to our subject species." She activated a galactic map showing hegemony territory. "But now there are humans openly defying us, and they're still alive. Every species in the Empire is asking the same question. If humans can say no, why can't we?" Admiral Zethkar studied the map. Over 400 worlds, billions of beings, all living under hegemony rule because they believed they had no choice. "Recommendations?" "Sir, we have 3 options. First, we can attack the humans and destroy them completely. That would send a message to other species that resistance is futile." "What's wrong with that option?" "2 problems, sir. First, we would take massive casualties. The humans are prepared for total war. Second, destroying an entire species for refusing membership would make us look like tyrants. Many member species would question whether we're the civilization we claim to be." "Second option? We could withdraw and leave the humans alone, accept their independence and establish diplomatic relations." "And the problems with that?" "It sets a precedent. Other species would immediately demand the same treatment. The Empire could fragment within years." Admiral Zethkar rubbed his temples with 2 of his hands. "Third option?" "Compromise, sir. We could recognize human sovereignty over a limited area in exchange for guarantees that they won't interfere with hegemony operations elsewhere." "Would they accept that?" "Unknown, sir. But it might be our best choice." Before Admiral Zethkar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "multiple hyperspace signatures, massive energy readings." "More human ships?" "No, sir. These are hegemony signatures, but they're not responding to communications." The main screen showed new arrivals. Hegemony ships, but flying in formation with human vessels. Mixed fleets emerging from hyperspace together. "What in the void?" "Sir," the communications officer said in shock, "we're being hailed by Admiral Thexval of the 4th Fleet." "Put him through." The screen showed the familiar bridge of a hegemony dreadnought, but Admiral Thexval was not alone. Standing beside him was a human in a different uniform than the ones Zethkar had seen before. "Admiral Zethkar," Thexval said formally, "I bring new orders from High Command." "What orders?" "A ceasefire. The Hegemony Council has voted to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Terran Defense Force. Admiral Zethkar felt his world spinning. On whose authority? The human beside Admiral Thexval stepped forward. Admiral Zethkar, I am Ambassador David Park, representing the United Earth government. I'm here to negotiate a treaty. What kind of treaty? Ambassador Park smiled. A treaty of mutual recognition. We acknowledge hegemony authority over their current territory. You acknowledge human authority over our space. Neither side interferes with the other unless invited. And what about other species who might want similar arrangements? That's between you and them. We're only negotiating for humanity. Admiral Zethkar looked at Admiral Thexval. Is this really happening? Admiral, Thexval replied. The Council spent 3 days debating this situation. In the end, they decided that forced integration would cost more than it would gain. The humans will be recognized as an independent power. But the precedent, Ambassador Park interrupted. Admiral, other species will make their own choices. Some might demand independence. Others might prefer the security of hegemony membership. That's not our concern. But you've shown them that refusal is possible. Yes, Ambassador Park said simply. We've shown them that freedom is always a choice, even if it's a dangerous one. 6 months later, Admiral Zethkar stood in his new office on the hegemony capital world. Through his window, he could see the bustling activity of the galaxy's largest city. But the Empire was different now. 17 species had requested renegotiation of their membership terms. 3 had demanded complete independence and received it after tense negotiations. The Vorth had established semi-autonomous regions within hegemony space. The Zenthari had formed their own defense force while remaining hegemony members. But most species had chosen to remain as they were. The promise of security and prosperity still appealed to civilizations that preferred comfort over independence. On his desk lay reports from the human border regions, trade agreements, joint exploration missions, and even some military cooperation against pirates and raiders. The humans had proven to be useful neighbors when treated as equals rather than subjects. A chime indicated an incoming message. Admiral Zethkar activated his display to see Admiral Chen's face. Admiral, she said with a smile that was actually friendly this time, I wanted to thank you. For what? For not pushing the battle when you could have, for giving diplomacy a chance. Many in the hegemony still think I made the wrong choice. Maybe. But I think you made the human choice. Which is? You chose what you believed in over what you were ordered to do. That took courage. Admiral Zethkar considered her words. Admiral Chen, may I ask you something? Of course. Do you think this will lead to the collapse of the hegemony? Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Admiral, empires that rule by choice last longer than empires that rule by force. Maybe the hegemony will become something better. After she ended the transmission, Admiral Zethkar returned to his reports. The galaxy was more complicated now, more dangerous in some ways. But it was also more honest. For the first time in 400 years, membership in the hegemony was truly voluntary. And somehow, that made the empire stronger rather than weaker. Outside his window, ships from a dozen different species moved through space. Some flew hegemony colors, others displayed the symbols of independent worlds, and a few bore the angular designs that had become synonymous with human engineering. The galaxy would never be the same, and Admiral Zethkar found that he was glad of it. Freedom, he had learned, was contagious. And perhaps that wasn't such a terrible thing after all.